This episode is brought to you by Hasa. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this Best of Bob Lowry, Bob Lowry talks about hot tub care, above ground spa care, everything you need to know about taking care of hot tubs out on your pool route. And of course, there are a lot of differences between taking care of a hot tub or spa versus an in-ground pool. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Let's finish up here. We'll talk about spas and hot tubs. And so there's this big debate about bromine versus chlorine in hot tubs. There's, or a lot of times you have the frog sanitizer, things like that. There's so many different ways to sanitize a spa. The newer ones have UV and ozone built into them. So what would be the best sanitizer for a spa, in your opinion? Bromine, chlorine, ozone, UV,
Well, I think each of the available disinfectants have their own characteristics that you end up having to deal with. And for many years, a lot of people use sodium dichlor or they use bromine tablets. And again, the bromine tablets were a convenient way to just put the thing in a feeder and let it feed the right amount of bromine to the spa. There was some advantages to using bromine, and the advantages are that it works at a higher temperature, it works at a higher pH. Bromamines, which are bromine and ammonia getting together, don't smell, and there are active sanitizers. So it had those advantages. The disadvantage to bromine is that it is not an oxidizer. So it will kill things, it will kill bacteria, and it will kill algae, and it's pretty handy at doing that. But it doesn't oxidize sunblock, sweat, urine, soap, deodorant, hairspray, lotions, powders, those kinds of things that we have on our bodies. It doesn't oxidize those. We end up needing a separate oxidizer. But there isn't a test to determine when you need an oxidizer. So you have to guess at it. So you use the tablets, and then you guess at how often you need to add an oxidizer. And that can be once or twice a week. One of the advice that I used to give people with a spa is every time you get out of the spa, add an ounce of oxidizer back to the spa, a non-chlorine shock. Add an oxidizer to the spa. When you get out, leave the spa on for 10 minutes and turn it off. And that way you will take care of most of the contamination that you brought in with you. And if you don't, then a couple of days later, your spa's going to kind of smell and stuff. And it's because the bromine can't kill that stuff. It can't oxidize. So you need to add either a chlorine shock or a non-chlorine shock whenever you get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can use bromine, but as I've said, with a spa in particular, the chlorine level, the sanitizer level goes to zero very quickly. And 265 gallons of water, 1 gram of chlorine is 1 part per million. And so it's a very small amount of chlorine to get a part per million. You're talking about a teaspoon providing 4 or 5 parts per million of chlorine. By the same token, a person has a chlorine demand of about 4 grams of chlorine. So when they get in the spa, I've often said 2 people in a 400-gallon spa will use up 1 part per million of chlorine in 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And use up 2 parts per million of bromine in 15 minutes. So the chlorine level can disappear 15 minutes after you put it in. So it's important that we have something that supplies that chlorine back, or that the homeowner is supplementing it either with adding some dichlor or some oxidizer when they get out, and then let the bromine do its job. I don't think it's an either or. It's a matter of which one works best for you. The frog system that they've just come out with is essentially the same as a bromine tab, except they put chlorine with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a tablet of chlorine, but it doesn't have any cyanuric acid in it.
Huh.
So it's a pretty cool system because it's chlorine without adding cyanuric acid to the spot. So it's a viable alternative to bromine or using dichlor in there.
What about liquid chlorine? I know a lot of people use liquid chlorine in spas.
You can use liquid chlorine in a spa, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the people that say you shouldn't are the people that still believe when you add liquid chlorine, it raises the pH. And we now know that liquid chlorine doesn't raise the pH, so there's less of a reason to not use it.
What about I hear this all the time, and I've heard it since I started in the industry, that you shouldn't mix in a spa bromine tablets, and then you shouldn't use liquid chlorine to shock the spa. There's some kind of reaction with that, or is that just something that's developed into one of those myths in the industry?
It's a myth.
Okay.
It's a myth. But you need, if you're using bromine tabs in a spa, you need to periodically shock it. And it's your choice what you want to shock it with.
Mm-hmm.
You can shock it with liquid chlorine, you can shock it with dichlor, you can shock it with cal hypo, you can shock it with monopersulfate or a non-chlorine shock, or even hydrogen peroxide.
What about like the UV and ozones that are coming with the newer spas? Do you think those are good methods? I know people think that having the UV and ozone means they don't need chlorine in their spa, which is not true, right?
That is absolutely not true. Okay, and the biggest reason, which I said earlier today, was from bather to bather transmission. And think about this: UV, the only things that are being killed or changed are things that are passing within 1 inch of that UV bulb. So anything that's in the spa that's attached or too big to get into the system, it's not seeing the UV. So if you have a biofilm growing, if you have algae growing or whatever, it's not going to where the UV is. So it only kills stuff going through it. And the UV system, the bulb is usually inside of an optically clear sleeve. And if that sleeve gets dirty from soap, oil, calcium, magnesium, whatever, if it gets a deposit or it gets soap film or something on it, it changes the optics of that glass sleeve, and you no longer are putting out the proper wavelength to get rid of anything. The proper wavelength to kill things with UV is 254 nanometers. And if you make that sleeve dirty, it's no longer outputting at 254 nanometers. which means it's not killing anything. So if it gets dirty, it's not killing anything. Ozone. Ozone is very powerful stuff. It can be up to 2,000 times more powerful than chlorine. But it only exists in water under good conditions, under great conditions, for between 3 and 15 minutes. That's it. So 3 to 15 minutes. And most of the time, especially in a spa, the ozone lasts for seconds. So, and you can prove that by actually sticking your nose as close as you can to a return line. And if you can't smell ozone in that return, then you probably don't have any ozone getting into the spa. And oxidation is being done within literally a few inches of the ozonator.
And the smell of that, what is that, Bob? When you smell it, you say?
People have likened the smell of ozone to either wet hay, some people never get near hay, when there is a thunderstorm, you can kind of smell the ionization in the air a little bit. The other place that most people might remember it is if they've ever stood by a photocopy machine and made 50 copies. That smell that comes out of there is not the toner smell. You're smelling ozone.
Huh. Interesting. I never thought about smelling it, but that's a good point. And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. At all my hot tubs, I keep a submersible pump behind it. I tell the customer, I'm leaving this pump here because I'm going to be draining your spot every 3 or 4 months. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people neglect is this water is in here. It's like a bathtub kind of, and you're just chemicalizing it. It needs to be drained often, right?
Yes. I recommended for years that you drain your spa every 90 days. I was on the committee that created a drain routine for, at the time, NSPI for commercial spas. And you take 1/3 of the gallons in the spa and divide it by the bather load. And the resulting answer is how many days you can use the water. And it actually works for a homeowner spa. If you think about it, you've got what? 250 gallons, 350 gallons, 350 gallons, a third of that's 110. If you divide 2 people into 110, you can use the water for 55 days.
Yeah, so smart. I think that's one equation that a lot of people are struggling with when they have their hot tub and they're doing pool service and they can't clear it up or they can't figure out what's wrong with it. The simple answer is you have to drain it. Well,
you do, and it's a lot easier, especially if you've got a 50-gallon a minute pump or something like that to drain it. You can probably drain it in 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, fill it back up in a half an hour, and you're done.
Yeah.
And just start using some dichlor to start, and you'll get some cyanuric acid in it. It's a lot easier with a spa to just drain it. The more you can drain it, the better with the spa.
And that's one reason why I leave a sub pump at every hot tub that I do on my service route when I'm not carrying it back there. And I also tell the homeowner, if you feel like draining it at any time, here's how you use the pump. And I show them how to use it with their garden hose, and they can drain it whenever they want to themselves. And as long as they let me know they drained it, I can make sure that it has chemicals in it. But one of the things I think is important with a hot tub care is that draining is something that should be part of your service. You shouldn't neglect that aspect of it. And you charge for that too. You charge for draining the spa for them.
I would set it up on 90, 120 days.
Yeah.
Just put it on your calendar and do it.
Yep, exactly. Well, and if you're looking for more podcasts, you can find those by going to my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. There'll be a drop-down menu with 1,900 podcasts for you there. In addition to the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.